Hello and welcome to the crowdfunding webinar with Bristol Green Capital Partnership. My name is Bertie Hurtage and I will be the crowdfunding coach across the duration of this campaign. This is the first of a four-part webinar series where we will be looking at planning your project, creating your project, running your project, and the fourth and final webinar will be a Q&A session where you have an opportunity to ask any questions before we go live on June the 1st. So today we will be looking specifically at planning your project. So we're going to run through the basics, explain how crowdfunding works, how the Better Bristol campaign works, and what you need to do to get a really solid plan together to make a successful project. Okay, so a little bit about us. We are the #1 rewards-based crowdfunding website in the UK. We receive between about 150 to 200 new projects on the website every day. So we have lots of expertise in the area and really understand what makes a good project work. So for those of you who attended the Bristol workshop, there will be some familiar content to you. So please bear with us. Next week we'll be looking at lots of fresh content for you. So we're just going to recap the basics and what we mean by rewards-based crowdfunding. So this is what we'll be primarily focusing on for this campaign. And this is crowdfunding that allows for basic donations to be made on the site, alongside the option to pledge a certain amount in return for a particular reward. So the example that we like to use is the Leeds Bread Co-op. So Phil here had a fantastic idea that he'd like to start an artisan bakery. He had used up all of his personal finances and he'd been turned down for a loan from the bank. So he decided to crowdfund for the £8,000 he needed to make his project happen. So what he did in 49 days was raise £8,690 from 144 different backers. And he provided rewards on his project that people can pledge on and that he could deliver once his bakery was open. Examples might be something like pledge £10 and receive 5% off all future purchases once the bakery is open, pay £100 and receive a loaf of bread every week for 6 months, or pay £200 and have you and a friend come to the bakery and learn all about artisan baking. So, alongside the obvious reasons why people crowdfund, there is much more to it besides earning the money you need for your idea. So, crowdfunding provides excellent validation for your idea. For if people are prepared to put their money into it and back it, they believe in the concept and they want to see it happen. So it really is proving that there is a demand in that area for what you want to do. Running a crowdfunding project is an excellent marketing exercise. You're really raising awareness and raising the profile of your project or your brand or your organization by approaching all of these different audiences and really pushing yourself to shout loud and proud about what you're doing. And in turn, what we have is advocates. These are people who pledge on your campaign during your crowdfunding project, and we find that these people usually stay on for the long haul and follow your progress throughout. So, by proving your concept and raising funds from the crowd, this is great at unlocking future funding. Because if you've managed to raise that money, it's easier then to proceed to get extra funding from a private individual or to request a loan from the bank. And as you know, with extra funding, we partner with funds like Bristol Green Capital Partnership who can supply some extra funding for your project. So, a big question really, which is probably on your mind: why do people pledge? So this is made up of two different factors. One, they believe in your idea and want to make it happen, and they want the reward that you have on offer. So where these areas overlap is where crowdfunding works best, and in this area that we call the sweet spot. So you should be familiar with the campaign page for Better Bristol. There is a total of £45,000 available for your ideas. All of the information that you need can be found here in relation to the criteria. So this is on www.crowdfunder.co.uk/better-bristol-2017. So the overall umbrella criteria for all of your projects, as you know by now, is that Better Bristol are looking to support local ideas and projects that will contribute to making Bristol a sustainable city with a high quality of life for all. So you need to make sure that your target is between £6,000 and £8,000, that you are on all or nothing funding, and that you get a minimum of 40 backers by the time that you get to 50%. So this is how the match funding is going to work. There is a competition element to this, for which we have £40,000 available. So the first projects that are able to get to 50% with 40 backers will be eligible to receive match funding. So the way that this is going to work, and I will email more details on this later, is that when you reach this stage, please email me, and we will then evaluate your position and subsequently award you the remaining 50% to get to your target from Bristol Green Capital Partnership. In addition to this, Bristol Green Capital Partnership will be awarding a £5,000 prize to a project that demonstrates an exceptional commitment to inclusion and equality in these aims. So those are the projects that miss out on the match funding. Okay, so let's just have a quick look at the timeline. We have 3 more sessions, webinar sessions, before you go live on the 1st of June. Definitely get these dates in your calendar, because they're important milestones which are part of the journey to get you in the best possible place before you go live on June 1st. So we're going to have a look at planning your project, and we've split this up into 3 different sections. First and foremost is making the plan, making sure you've got that plan in place to get to your target. Secondly is identifying the skills that you're going to need to run this campaign. Furthermore, identifying that crowd that you're going to need to support your project and how you get them on board. So, by now, hopefully all of you have downloaded the 3 guides available on the Eventbrite page. They are really essential resources in preparing you for the running of this project. All of the information that we've gathered over the 5 years that we've been running is distilled and made available in these areas to help you along your way. They are editable PDFs, so you can engage with them directly via your computer, or feel free to print them off and scribble all over them, however you wish. But as you can see here, we can look at making a plan. So what we've got here is an extensive checklist, which if you hit every one of these boxes, then you should be in a good position to go live. It's a really good checklist to run back through while you're doing the work to make sure you're getting all of these points in. and it would be a good idea to proportion up these different tasks so that you can manage your time appropriately. So, we have identified 8 different skills which are essential for the running of a crowdfunding campaign. You may look at these and be able to identify with a few of these yourself that you can take ownership of. For example, you might be the project leader, the industry expert, and the networker. But it's important to identify the gaps in your skill set and think about who can help you to fill those gaps. We usually recommend that you have a team of between 2 and 5 people. It's a great way to share the work and the responsibility, but it's also a great way to expand your network and the potential pledges that are coming through. So if you do know someone who's particularly good at social media and that is a weak point for you, get in touch, get them on board. And likewise, if you're not quite sure how to make a video, get someone with a bit of experience on board. Okay, so this is by far the most important part of the crowdfunding exercise in the build-up to running your project. This template, what we call a network map, is available on page 6 of your guide. And this is a really valuable resource that you can look at now and you can keep adding to as you go through. What I would recommend is finding the biggest piece of paper you can and replicating this template on that piece of paper. And if you prefer to do that on an Excel spreadsheet, then do, however you prefer. But it's a really good way to start looking at all of the different possible groups of backers that you're going to need to contribute to your project. So the first stage of this is to identify your personal network. So friends, family, colleagues, local people that you know, or potential local businesses that you know. And then it gets a bit more exciting, really, when you start thinking about, okay, who do they know? And beyond this, who would we like to know? And from here, your network map really grows. And it's a really, really good way to get ideas for the kind of content you're going to need to write going forward. How to promote your campaign to the different groups that you've identified, and how to tailor your rewards specifically to these different groups of people. So, if you've read the guide, you might be familiar with these 2 terms. What we mean by super backers are those who can contribute a larger amount to your campaign. These might be high net worth individuals that you know. It might be a local business that can sponsor you, or it might be an organization like the Rotary Club or WI, for instance. And what we mean by influencers are those that are opinion leaders in the area that you're focusing on. Those people with the ears to the audiences that you're trying to reach. So these could be, when you look at your network map, the people that you believe to be very well connected. They could be local MPs. They could be television or radio personalities associated with your field of interest. But these are really, really important areas to think a great deal about because they can have a good and valuable impact on your project. So I'd recommend to start any of these conversations early, as they do take a bit of time to develop. So one of the very important stages to take into account while you're planning your project is really how you're going to nurture your crowd. So it's very important to start a dialogue with your supporters before you go live, because you can really help build momentum and support for your project so that when you go live, you start with a bang. So any existing supporters or personal contacts you might have who know about what you're doing, definitely keep them in the loop, make them a part of the process, because the more engaged that they feel now, the more likely they are going to be able to share your campaign far and wide. So a good idea would be to run a few things past the particular people. So maybe the description in your project, and certainly maybe ask for some recommendations for rewards to find out exactly what would people pledge on. So social media is an important and valuable element to running a crowdfunding project. Certainly websites like Facebook are really, really good converters at getting pledges made. So if you don't have a Facebook page or a social media site for your project, it's a good idea to start thinking about creating one. It's a great place to host lots of interesting content, have a go at adding all of your friends, and put some engaging material on there so that when you go live, this is another channel that people can use to share your project. What we mean by relevant groups are to really consider who shares our interest. So these could be groups within your community or in the larger UK area of people that support what you're trying to do, or are doing a similar project. So it's very important to start networking at this stage. Are there any events that you can go to? Are there any important people to meet? Because all of the connections you make now will really help expand your network map going forward. And likewise, if you have a website for your project, definitely make sure it's prepared, get some content up on there about your crowdfunding campaign, and once you're live, get the link up there so people can divert traffic from the website straight to your crowdfunding page. Okay, right, so what's next? It's definitely time to have a go at start adding your project. After this webinar, I'm going to send you a link where you can sign up, and this way we can track your progress. We will be covering this in more detail in the next webinar, but it's definitely worth having a look, getting familiar with the website. Until you go live, nothing will be visible to the public, so you can make any edits and changes as you feel necessary. In the meantime, if you have any questions or would like to bounce some ideas, do contact me on bertie.heritage@crowdfunder.co.uk. As you can see, we've now completed our first webinar, 3 more to go. So if you can, in preparation for our next webinar on creating your project, download the associated guide from the Eventbrite page, that would be great. But thank you very much for your attention today. Best of luck. Any questions, do let me know, and we will see you next time. Thank you.